quickly?
I'm afraid I'm going to have to go to Congressman Hunter, and then we'll go to Congresswoman Grace Napolitano, and then to Congressman Brian Bilbray. Congressman Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to apologize. I've got a great staff member who had a series of strokes and is in the hospital, and so I'm going to have to. I'm going to ask my questions. I'm going to leave and go up and see how they're doing. But let me ask you, Chief, and first thank you for the great job you're doing and the team. But the border fence is a major part of the House package. It calls for 700 miles of border fence, and basically San Diego-style fence. And I think we need to remember that when we built that fence, we started building it in the early 90s and ultimately mandated the 14 miles of fence from the Pacific Ocean east, triple fence at that time. We had armed gangs that robbed, raped, and murdered mostly illegal immigrants coming across the border, in fact, exclusively, because people carry their life savings generally in their pockets. A group of armed robbers, sometimes with automatic weapons, would often rape the women. They would rob everybody, and at times they would kill them, to the point where we had a city of San Diego detachment that dressed like illegal aliens and would hang around at the border and wait for the gangs to attack them, and at that point they would have a confrontation, either arrest them or have a gunfight with them. And that was the subject of Joseph Wambaugh's famous bestseller, Lines and Shadows. We had a no man's land on the San Diego border, and we would go down and we would have lines of politicians and news media deplore what we called the bonsai attacks, where thousands of people would come across at one time, or where the smugglers would assemble people in military-style formations at what was known as the old soccer field, and they would move out promptly under the cover of darkness. By building the border fence, and initially it was mandated by Congress to be a triple fence, we stopped that. We totally stopped all the drive-through drug traffic. Massive smuggling of cocaine was going on. We took the 10 murders a year on the border down to zero, with all of the assaults and rapes that were attendant those murders and those confrontations. We put the border gangs out of business because we took away their mobility. In the old days, if they were pursued from the north, they'd move south. Pursued from the south, they'd move north. The fence worked. And that's one thing I'd like you to comment on, because you've got commentators in the country who've never been down to the border, who have talked about how if I think the governor of Arizona said, if you show me a 20-foot fence, I'll show you a 21-foot ladder. You've got lots of silly statements that don't, by people who don't understand how the double fence works, and how that has leveraged the Border Patrol and given you better capability. Now, this bill would provide for 392 miles of fencing between Calexico and Douglas, Arizona, and that is the hot zone through which most of the people are coming right now in this summer season who are going to die in the Arizona desert. And my understanding is that of the 400 or so people who die historically on an annual basis, about 77 people have expired so far. The House passed this bill and mandated that we have interlocking cameras in that sector by May 30th. Already passed. The Senate wasn't even off the floor with their bill. And we also have a piece, an early piece in Laredo, Texas, where you have massive backpack cocaine trade coming across from Nuevo Laredo. So my question to you is very simply, as a guy who's been on the ground here, does the fence work?
Yes, it does very much. Especially, and I'll just limit my comments to just San Diego sector specific. As you alluded to earlier, during the 1980s, early and mid-1990s, San Diego was considered the gateway for illegal immigration into the United States. It was a no man's land. Predatory violence was occurring daily. Assaults, physical, sexual, shootings, people being killed. Multiple border barriers, especially here in the metropolitan area, which was congressionally mandated in 1996 through the Border Infrastructure System, 14-mile border barrier project. In just between the ports of entry, San Ysidro and Otay Mesa have reduced activity by 80% from pre-tactical infrastructure to post-tactical infrastructure. It's a great force multiplier. It expands our enforcement capacity. It allows us the discretion to redeploy agents to areas of more vulnerability or at risk. It's one component that certainly has been integral to everything that we've accomplished here, raising the level of border security in the San Diego sector. And the San Diego sector is very appreciative of all your support, Congressman Hunter, for all that you've done for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for letting me come in and make a quick visit and to leave. But I've got to go leave and see my folks in the hospital.
Thank you, Congressman Hunter.
Appreciate all the members.
Appreciate it. We're going to go to Congresswoman Grace Napolitano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief